Dr. Kim Byrd-Rider, and this is Mr. Tuna.
Good morning.
I just love your name.
Thank
I
you.
have to, Christopher Tuna, I should say his whole name.
On one of my first job interviews, the interviewer said that every dietitian should have a food in their name.
They should!
You know?
And a good food, tuna. I mean,
Exactly.
come on, it's not like Mr. Chocolate or anything.
Yeah, rich in omega-3 fatty acids, high in protein. We love it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's hilarious. And it's real.
Yes, absolutely.
You did not change your name to
No,
Tuna. Where
no,
are you
no.
from that you would be named Tuna?
So I think Tuna is a German name.
Oh.
I think it was Tunna way back in the day before Ellis Island.
Yeah.
And I think they were kind of forced to Americanize it, which many nationalities ended up doing, just changing little bits of the spelling to fit
To
in.
make
and
sense to what their English language was.
Exactly. So I think it went from Tuna to Tuna.
Tuna.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. It works. Well, tell us what you were just telling me about your doctoral program. You're in the doctoral program? What are you doing?
Yeah, right now I'm in my second semester of my doctorate in clinical nutrition program at Rutgers. Rutgers is an awesome university
Yeah.
in New Jersey,
Yeah.
which is very close to my home of New York, maybe a couple hours drive away.
You're from New York?
I am from New York.
Where in New York?
Upstate New York. So
Upstate in the country.
laid back country.
Amish
Yep.
people?
Sometimes.
I love the Amish people.
Yeah, very nice people.
Yeah.
But yeah, very busy and learning a lot of new things, and yeah, that's kind of my 5-year goal is to get my doctorate and be able to reach more people and know more things and.
Well, it's believable because I've been, probably everybody watching this has been on every diet on the planet, and because that's just what we do as women. And men do it too, but women were hysterical about
Absolutely.
it. And hysterical is probably the correct word. It's not enough. I'm not overdoing that. But I've learned so much so far.
Good.
And
Wonderful.
we've got a lot to go too.
We do.
I'm finding that this is, for the first time in my life, I won't get on the scale. I have not gotten on the scale yet.
It's so funny you say that because I'm the same way. Honestly, when once I switched that mindset of it's really a weekly thing that weigh-in that we're doing.
Yeah.
I really felt a lot less stressed about needing to know that number all of the time.
Yeah, well, I know my clothes are getting looser, so I know it's working.
Yeah.
And I know my stomach's getting flatter, so I know it's working. And I have faith in the program for the first time in my life because I know the exercise piece for the first time in my life because we either, in exercise, we either overdo it. Everybody thinks you have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger to get anything done and burn
Right.
800 calories. And I have read so much, getting my doctorate program, I've read so much research that that's not necessary.
Right.
And many times when you over-exercise like that, you build up this hunger that's crazy, and so then you're eating like a mad person to satisfy all that calorie burn, and then you're just putting on weight because you're still overeating.
Yeah, there is a balance between, how much energy that you're putting into your body to be able to have a good workout, and not having enough kind of, I think we've kind of all been in that situation where, especially if we're doing this program and participating in the exercise regimen, some days you just feel down, and making sure that you're having enough to eat prior to those sessions is really important, and good food to make sure that you have, high energy throughout the day. And part of that is fiber, which kind of leads us into, pooping and constipation, being
Which we're gonna
regular
look at.
because, fiber and really quality carbohydrates are really important, not only, keeping us regular on a good schedule, but also keeping our energy levels balanced throughout the day. I think I talked previously about combining protein with other nutrients, with either carbohydrates or fat to help regulate our energy levels, because it kind of makes it a little more complicated for our bodies to break down a little bit longer. And that's a similar idea. What we kind of want to do is we want our bodies to think. You want to give complicated nutrients into our bodies that are nutritious, healthy, and actually make our bodies work. And there is something called the thermal effect of food, which is simply the energy and the calories that you burn simply by burning that food in your body. And certain foods have different thermal effects, and usually foods that are a little bit harder to break down, like fibrous foods that keep us regular, and regulate our energy levels are examples of that. So legumes, beans, vegetables, fruit, things like that. But one thing that I think that people don't realize is that there are multiple different types of fiber that do different types of things. So if you feel like you're going too frequently, you might want to choose.
And by go, he means pooping. We're talking about pooping today. I don't know if I clarified that. There's a lot of medical terms for that, defecating, but those words you're going to use, pooping, today.
Everybody poops. Yeah, I don't know if how many people have read that book, but
there's a book called Everybody Poops.
There's a famous book. There's a famous children's book called Everybody Poops, and it teaches us how to, clean up after ourselves and. Yeah, a lot of wonderful books like that.
So back to the fiber.
Yeah. So there are multiple different types of fiber. So depending on what your situation is, excuse me, my mouth's getting dry.
It's very early in the morning here.
But so there's something called insoluble fiber and soluble fiber. So if you feel like you're pooping too frequently, or it's very liquid, you want to have it formed a little bit better. Things that are more fibrous like vegetables are a really good source for that. That's called insoluble fiber. We can't really break it down. It doesn't mix with anything really in our body. It's not water soluble. Then there's the soluble fiber, which is soluble with water. It kind of mixes very well with water, and
so which ones mix with water and which ones don't?
So fiber that's found in fruits is a really good source of soluble fiber, and what that does.
So it's kind of more of a delicate fiber, as opposed to.
So what it does is it combines with water and creates sort of a gel. A gel inside our gut. So if we feel like we're going too frequently and it's too watery, what we can do is we can have more fruits, and that's going to give us a higher degree of soluble fiber. It's going to absorb a lot of that water and make our stools much more formed, much more comfortable, and keep us regular. If you feel like you're not going frequently enough, maybe that's an issue with bulking up the stool, and so in that way,
like the stool is bulked up,
or it's not. Adding bulk to the stool will basically allow it to pass. Will encourage your body to pass it through, and so fibrous things like broccoli and celery is a really good source of hemicellulose, insoluble fiber, things like that.
So if you're constipated, you want more non-soluble fiber.
Yes, so if you're constipated, you want to have more vegetables, for example. But if you feel like you have diarrhea, you might want to have more fruits, for example.
I see. Oh, that's a good trick.
Yeah.
Because pooping's imperative to losing weight.
Yeah, so you definitely want to.
Not that that's the most important thing, because actually we're talking about like colon cancer.
Yeah.
These things affect colon cancer, which is serious.
Absolutely, yeah. So the recommendation for adults is between 22 and 34 grams of fiber a day to keep us regular, to lower our risk of colon cancer.
Of both kinds of fiber?
Of
fiber
either kind.
It's just total fiber.
Yes, and you can get that through whole grains, cereals, hot and cold cereals.
Rice?
Oatmeal. Rice, a little bit, particularly brown rice.
Oh, brown rice.
Brown
is
rice,
better.
yeah, brown rice. The difference between white rice and brown rice is that brown rice doesn't have the fiber removed. Removed. It retains a lot of the original bran that is from the grain.
Oh, so the bran is what you're after. So cereals have bran. There's bran cereals.
Absolutely. Raisin bran, oatmeal, cream of wheat, farina, things like that. Those are really good sources.
And oatmeal needs to be not instant oatmeal.
Yes. So the more instant that your oatmeal becomes, the easier it is for your body to absorb. The easier that a food is for your body to absorb, the higher the insulin spike that you're going to suffer from that. And again, going back to our other videos, you want to go throughout the day avoiding spikes or dips in your insulin. You want to keep a steady state, because that is really what's going to modulate your energy levels and deposit of fat as well.
Oh, well, what I love about this program is I get to eat breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a half a bagel with cream cheese for I'm eating 200 calories 5 times a day, and half of a bagel is like 150, and the cream cheese said 40 on the little thick container. Yeah. And so it was 100. And somebody goes, "You're eating carbs." I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm eating breakfast.
And fat, too.
And fat, because the cream cheese had the fat to make it complex.
Yeah.
And the whole bagel would have been too much, but the half was.
Yeah, the important thing to think, or the important thing to remember, is that no nutrient is going to make us fat. Fat does not make us fat. Carbohydrates don't make us fat. And as a matter of fact, making sure that you have something in the morning is really important. I talked about the thermal effect of food, the calories that we burn just from metabolizing our food, but also you really, really, truly want to break your fast in the morning. That's
because of the insulin.
Because of the insulin, and and it's really multifactorial. So, number one, your body is in a catabolic state when you wake up in the morning. So that means that your body is breaking its own energy stores down for energy, because you haven't put any food into your body in a long time. You really want to break that state, because not only are you using fat for energy, but you're using your lean muscle tissue for energy too. And that's the last thing that we want to do. The goal is obviously to lose weight, but to regain or to retain your strength, your functional ability, your movement, because that's really what is going to get it. The last thing that we want to do is be able to have really low energy after we lose all that weight, because we want to kind of show it off a little bit,
of course.
have a little fun. But yeah, so.
And mental function through the day, like I'm finding, because I wasn't eating until 12 o'clock, I was kind of doing the intermittent fasting thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in a brain fog because you haven't eaten.
Yeah, so that happens to me too. You really want to be able to, your brain functions primarily on carbohydrates and ketones. Ketones are the type of bodies that your body produces when you're not really eating a lot of carbohydrates. These are kind of what your body substitutes for sugar when we need energy to survive. Your brain is one of the hungriest, as far as energy goes.
Yeah.
It's one of the hungriest organs in our entire body.
So it's chewing up a lot of calories.
Absolutely. Just thinking, people talk about that mental fatigue. I get it all the time.
Yeah.
Like if I'm working on a problem for multiple hours on end, I am I have a tendency to be shot after that. So I need a mental break or eat something. And not only does it make you think clearer, but it makes you a little happier. We all, get hangry, sometimes, and
all of us.
Yeah, and just improving your mood and just, being able to feel nicer.
Yeah.
You want to be nicer to people. That's always a good thing.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
That changes your world
Absolutely.
when you can be just a little bit nicer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so poop. How much your intestines can hold a lot of poop?
Yeah.
How much can it hold?
Well, it can. It depends on how much you eat.
Yeah.
Obviously, and it depends on how much you drink. Hydration, I'll get to in one moment as well. But you could have anywhere between 5 to 20 pounds of fecal matter in your intestines at any given time. Obviously, at that, you would be on the upper end if your fiber is low, if your activity is low, if your hydration status is very low. Those three things are the primary factors as far as how much you're carrying at any given time. You want to be able to move. Your physical activity kind of needs to be there.
So how does physical activity affect your intestines?
Really in two ways. Mechanically, so moving your body. So a lot of times people don't realize that we think that our bodies are just doing everything internally themselves, and we don't have to do anything about it. So sometimes, especially when it comes to fluid accumulation, or being able to move our bowels, movement, ambulation is very important. Being able to get our heart rate up a little bit, getting our activity and motion in general is going to stimulate a lot of the smooth muscle that's lining your intestine, and get it moving a little bit. Inactivity, sitting around, is one of the fastest ways to make it so that things are just sitting there, not really kind of moving their way through, as it were. So
Yeah, I've noticed like after Pilates, which is a lot of ab contractions, things will start to move.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you're stimulating me, you're squishing me, you're pumping.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pumping sensation when the abs contract to the abdominal cavity.
And hydration status is one of the biggest factors I've found, me personally, in my life. And you might find, that your biggest hurdle is completely different. Mine was hydration. When I first started on this journey, of learning about health and fitness and things like that, I realized that I was dehydrated literally all the time. I wouldn't have a bowel movement for days. I would be eating very well. I would be exercising every day, multiple times a day, and I was losing weight. But I was literally not going to the bathroom for 3-4 days out of the week. What changed is I just started to drink a gallon of water a day. I focused on drinking of gallon. Now,
do you fill up a gallon and then make your way through it?
And I carry it
you
around.
You almost have to, because you don't realize how much you're drinking.
Absolutely.
You think you're drinking a lot, but you're not.
It's hard. It's a huge benefit to keep track. And my fiance even has a big water bottle that has goals on it. Little saying, you can buy one on Amazon, and it has long way to go all the way at the top, and all the way at the bottom is just a little bit more, just a little bit more. So it has motivational sayings at each increment of the gallon. But when I started to really focus on hitting water hard throughout the day, which is, and not everybody needs a gallon. I was exercising a lot.
You're tall too.
I'm a bigger guy. I was in the summertime of New York, so it's hot.
It's humid.
So I needed more water. But I started going so I went from going, just from changing how much I'm drinking, I went from going, once or twice a week to multiple times a day.
Really?
Just from drinking water. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'll never forget that. And then that's been true my entire life. Your colon is very, very important as far as water retention, water reuptake, keeping things hydrated, and so
because it does reuptake water, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And if things aren't hydrated, they're just not. You can think of a well-oiled engine. If your pistons aren't, or your cylinders aren't oiled properly, the pistons aren't going to be doing their job at high efficiency. They're going to be causing a lot of heat. There's going to be a lot of friction. They're not going to be moving very well. So you can think of hydration status, sort of like that.
And if you're constipated, how does that affect the whole system? What's happening here?
Well, there's a lot of things that can happen. The primary issue that I think a lot of people would be concerned about is contact time of between the walls of your intestine. What can happen is the longer that fecal matter is in contact with your intestine, obviously you are running a greater risk for infection. You can even create little pockets which are called diverticuli. There's a lot of things that can happen: discomfort, gastrointestinal pain, cramping, things like that. So those are some real big hurdles, or complications from being constipated.
You want to get that stuff out.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, and
it's kind of, is it toxic? I mean, it's waste.
Oh, absolutely, that's part of the reason why the longer it stays in there, you run a greater risk for infection and things like that.
the diverticulitis kind of things. And
Yeah.
now, what's happening when you go too much? Like, are you not getting enough nutrients? Is it going through your body too fast? Or?
It depends on the consistency and the frequency. If you feel like you're going, 5, 6, 7 times a day, you definitely want to, talk to your healthcare provider about that. But one of the, risks from going too often is dehydration. That's probably one of the biggest things that I would be concerned with. And if you're going that frequently, could there be an issue with malabsorption? Are you not absorbing nutrients very fast? One thing that is, you don't want food that you eat to pass through too quickly. You certainly don't want that, because your body needs time to be able to extract the nutrients from that. So you want to kind of strike that balance between being regular enough so that you're going frequently, but not frequently enough so that you're not actually your body isn't being given enough time to kind of do its job and absorb those nutrients.
So all this is really important to the health of your entire body. And I doubt we'll get into it today, but you always hear of the gut being the second brain. Because there's so many nerve endings there.
Yes, yeah. There are a lot of nerve endings there. Partially because we need so much activity there for peristalsis to get things moving.
So peristalsis is that snake-like movement that it does.
Exactly, yeah.
And we're going to talk about laxatives and diuretics on another video.
Sure.
And that affects the peristalsis of the peristalsis slows down because that's doing the job for it. I've done pelvic floor for a long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of gals they're popping those laxatives for weight loss, back to weight loss.
And it's true weight loss, not necessarily fat loss.
It's that 5 to 20 pounds you're talking about that sits in your gut, and so it's kind of a fake weight loss.
Yeah.
But we'll get that. We'll hit that on another, because that actually is a problem that people don't talk about. That I used to see a lot of behind the curtain. One-on-one to a provider, they'll talk about it, and we'll talk about that again.
Okay.
But is there anything else you wanted to say about food? Wait, there was a third thing. Oh, you said water. So exercise, water.
Exercise, water, and fiber.
What about magnesium? I find that I get constipated a lot. I'm like that 3 or 4 day or so. I'm going to try the water thing. I drink a lot, like you're drinking. I drink a lot of like tea and sizes like that. But really, I don't know that those add up to a gallon. So I drink them throughout my day. And even I drink out of a small thing constantly, but I'm sipping.
Yeah. So
do you drink it in big thing? If you drink a big thing, does it go through the system too fast? Or
absolutely.
How should you pace your water?
I would certainly pace your water. I like to drink 1 cup of water an hour. That's my pace. And I figure if I drink 1 cup of water an hour for every hour that I'm awake, then I have roughly drank 16 cups of water, which is roughly a gallon.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's and
because you don't want to drink the whole gallon in one sitting.
No, because trust me, that gallon will be out of your system within that hour. But it's kind of like,
because a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
They just go.
It's kind you'll have to be aware of water toxicity with that as well.
Yeah, that's another question. Is too much water? Is that toxicity you're talking about?
Yes. So what you don't want to do is just chug a gallon of water. When you start chugging gallons of water, what happens is you could become you are in effect diluting a lot of the electrolytes in your blood. So for example, your very important electrolytes like sodium or chloride or potassium, those are going to become diluted, and you could actually suffer some cardiac effects because of that, because especially sodium and potassium are really important modulators in cardiac rhythm.
Definitely. Yeah, so you really need to pace this out through the day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, cup an hour. Cup an hour.
That's not hard.
No, no, it's not hard.
That's not hard.
But an actual cup. So not just like a styrofoam cup.
You mean a measuring cup full? Like, see what that fits into your cup that you use.
Or get one of those water bottles that have markers.
Oh yeah.
I highly encourage investing in maybe a $5 water bottle that has maybe markers for milliliters. 250 milliliters. 250 milliliters would be one cup, and so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you at first you certainly really need to pay attention to it, just like the calories.
Yes.
At first you really have to pay attention because you lie to yourself. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, this is 200 calories.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with the water, like I'm doing. I'm drinking plenty of water because I'm drinking throughout the day, but I'm not actually looking at it to make sure that that's really happening.
Yeah. You can also look at your pee too.
Yeah.
You can also look at
it does come out.
So it's not necessarily to have crystal clear pee to be well hydrated. A very pale yellow is sufficient.
The color of straw is what they always tell us, and
okay.
Is what color is your pee? Mm-hmm. If it's a color of straw, that's pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Except for when you take your vitamins and it's really yellow.
It's scary in the morning, and but
well, and also with water, you got to watch it at night because a lot of people pee through the night because they drink all their water before they go to bed. Mm-hmm. And they drink water in the middle of the night too. My own parents have a thing of water by the toilet so they can drink in the middle of the night when they go pee, and then they don't understand why they pee all night. So as a pelvic floor physical therapist, we were always taught, if you're having trouble with peeing through the night, to stop at about 6 o'clock. Stop after dinner. Mm-hmm. Don't drink at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Or if you really, or on the opposite end, if you really have to get up in the morning and you don't trust your alarm clock, you could always drink some.
Yeah, that's true. And this is also the thing, you can train your bladder to pee at certain times. And so if you get up every morning at 5 o'clock and pee, you will get up every morning at 5 o'clock and pee.
100% true.
If you hit that time regularly for about 6 months.
I always get up at around like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
And you're like, I gotta pee.
Yeah.
Because we found that out with pregnant ladies. They would get up with their babies to nurse like at 2 a.m. and say that 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. And they would also go pee when they did their nursing. So now the baby doesn't get up anymore, but they do to pee at 11 and 1. So they train their bladder to get up.
Wow.
So we would train them to skip it, even though it's like the worst feeling in the world to skip going pee in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But just try to sleep through it, and then eventually they would. They sleep a couple nights doing that and stop peeing like that. But if you have a lot of water in your bladder, you will get up and go pee, or you'll wet the bed.
Absolutely, yeah.
So but you do have to watch your water intake, like after 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what I usually do. I usually am a frequent, getting up in the middle of the night. So I certainly don't like to. And I kind of do the same thing with my dogs. They have a tendency to pee I have a tendency to wake up in the morning and there's a random spot on the ground.
Yeah, they like to do that.
I don't like to give them. So if they're
time.
So I make sure that their water bowl is up, and if it ends up being a little bit low at around 10 o'clock when I go to bed, you're
leave
fine.
It.
I'll take you.
You'll make it till tomorrow.
Absolutely, because they will drink it all night, and then I'll wake up with spots all over. So yeah.
Well, now do you know what because if I go 3 days or something without, I'll take magnesium, and then that helps. I think it's a muscle relaxer, right?
So magnesium is a pretty cool micronutrient. I don't know a lot about the relaxant element of it, but I know a little bit about the blood pressure control of it. That it actually I actually learned that several years ago after reading an article about magnesium, that it actually plays plays a pretty pivotal role in blood pressure regulation. And so I started to incorporate, my blood pressure was getting a little bit high. I actually started to supplement a little bit and having some more nuts, seeds to get more magnesium and manganese into my diet, and I actually saw a noticeable drop in my blood pressure and things like that. So I actually was very pleasantly surprised about that.
Nice.
So definitely a good way to help as far as a nutritional approach. Help if you have high blood pressure. Incorporate more nuts and seeds into your diet to try
That's
to level
fiber,
that out.
right?
A fiber again.
I keep saying right, but I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
I'm not like asking for
Yeah,
confirmation.
and high in fiber as well. Insoluble fiber, but nuts and seeds again. Be careful with the too much. Can cause some complications with certain people with gastrointestinal issues. If you happen to have diverticulitis, I would advise against having a lot of nuts and seeds. Particly type of foods, especially ones that are hard
particles.
they can get stuck in little pockets in your intestine. So a lot of them,
Like strawberry seeds.
absolutely. So a lot can cause some issue, but for the normal healthy adult, they're perfectly healthy. So
Well, now that we're talking, did you say nuts are soluble?
insoluble.
They're insoluble, so they're more of a complex fiber.
Yes.
Talking about nuts and dieting, we're not dieting. My roommate came up to me the other day and said, "Oh, I'm making brownies. Are you still on that diet?" And I go, "It's not really. This is a way of life.
Right.
Like, I'm not coming off of this. I will still do the same thing, but I'll add more calories. Like right now, I'm losing weight, so it's 200 calories 5 times a day. But when I maintain, I'll probably move to 300 calories 5 times a day, or whatever the number is I need to reach to maintain
Yeah. And
my intake. So, but nuts are a lot of calories.
nuts are a lot of calories, so take them in moderation. A handful of nuts.
Did you know 3 almonds is 100 calories?
It is
3.
It's a lot. Just a small handful is 109. I think most nuts, just because they have similar content of fat, although others are larger than others. About a handful is roughly 200 calories. Just two tablespoons of peanut butter, for example, is over 200 calories.
Yes. It's 100 calories per tablespoon.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Just a little. It's not. It's
Absolutely.
a lot of calories. So right now I'm kind of not doing the nut thing. Right now, while I'm losing weight,
Yeah.
I'm not doing the nut. But peanut butter on my banana, 1 tablespoon on a banana is 200 calories. So I'm getting nuts a little bit that way.
Right.
But I'm not just eating nuts.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise it as a finger food to mindlessly
It's not a
eat
good finger food.
because if you take a bag of let's say pistachios to
Yeah.
the movies or something, although we shouldn't bring our own snacks to the movies.
Shame on you.
That that is one small package of pistachios will be way more calories than a large tub of the popcorn.
Eat the popcorn.
and that's another thing. Popcorn. If you go to the movies, don't choose the candy, choose the popcorn. Popcorn is actually a whole grain. Popcorn is a whole grain, chock full
I always eat the
with
popcorn.
fiber. Don't
The
have too much butter.
I said go easy on the butter.
Butter, you have fat, especially saturated fat, which is a no-no. But as a sidebar, saturated fat, no in terms of heart health and cholesterol. Making sure that we at the same time, because that's one thing that I think that people go down the rabbit hole as far as the old Atkins diet goes,
Yeah.
is because
There's a lot of saturated fat.
yeah, they would get into a mode where they would have an entire package of bacon for breakfast,
Yeah,
because
'cause you could.
there aren't any carbs
You
in
could.
Package of bacon. So, and then, heart disease skyrocketed, people with high cholesterol, things like that. So,
Oh my gosh, we're going to do a whole section on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down, ladies and gentlemen. We could dive into that for 30 minutes.
Okay.
Easy.
Yeah.
And we're going to,
Mhm.
because we have more weeks to come.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to write that down. So we'll put that on the side for a second.
Okay.
Well, we'll close today, but we've got more to talk about.
Yes, we do.
We're going to talk about body image.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll see you next week on body image.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.